Hello and welcome back to the Burrow. So the channel just hit a pretty big milestone this week. We hit for the first time 10,000 views on a single video. And that video was my very first DIY for the Cheap Acrylic Hobby Lobby Enclosures. So in honor of that, since I did it so long ago and I had just less experience, less equipment, I had a worse setup, I figured I'd go through and I would redo it today and hopefully try to do it better and improve on it and give you more info and just make an all-around better video of the same thing basically. So if you are interested in seeing this again or any sort of updates or changes I've done, unfortunately this video may not be for you. If you want to see any like improvements maybe I've done or methods of how I'm doing it a little different maybe, stick around. This should be pretty interesting. So first I want to start with is what you need, just the tools you need. And to start off with, of course you need to get the case. That is the most important thing. They are $6.99 for this size at Hobby Lobby. There are several different sizes and cases that you can use. The one thing I do want to point out, like I did in the last video, is this. Make sure you get the one with the clear base, the very top one, for $6.99. They do have one that is $8.99, and it comes with, you're literally paying for this. It's just a chrome base to put the model on. You have no use for it. You're paying $2 basically for something you'll never use. So like I said, make sure that one is checked, not the checker or the chrome one, because you're just getting a useless thing you're never going to be able to use, paying extra money for nothing. There is one that's like $9.99 that's bigger than this, and they do get a lot bigger. So just watch what you're getting, and they all have this indicator on the side. Also, I will say too, as you see, it's open it up at the store. Make sure it's not cracked or broken in any way. I've gotten a couple that I had to take them back, so make sure, open it up at the store and make sure that it's good. After that, what you're going to want is a drill. I use my Dremel tool. You can use a regular drill or whatever you choose to drill holes. For air holes, you're going to need drill bits. I keep this small set that I just only use for the plastic. You're going to need something to cut the door, because you're going to have to cut at one point right through the plastic. I use, once again, my Dremel with a cutting tool in it. You could use a saw, whatever you have laying around. Just be very careful with that part. We'll get to that when we get that description. You're going to want something to mark the plastic where you want to cut and a ruler to get the line straight. That's very important because you don't want it to be on an angle. If you do, it gets harder to open and close. It's issues. You also want sandpaper. You're going to want to scuff the areas that you're going to be gluing. You're going to need glue to glue. Hinges of whatever kind that you want. I actually really do kind of like these darker ones. I don't know, I just like the look that they give. A lot of people will go online and buy acrylic hinges, so they still have the clear look to them. I just don't, you still can't see through them to me, so they don't really matter. You will also need a nail. I just have this from the dollar store, tons of little nails in it. And any little nail will do, just something like that is all you'll need. And that is going to be your locking pin to make sure the lid doesn't open on you. Okay, so let's just get jumping right into this. Okay, the first thing you want to do is drill the holes, not cut the door like a lot of people think. And the reason why you want to do that is you want the structural support of this door in there. When you're drilling through, you don't want to end up pressing too hard or something and you'll crack the case. You'll crack from the hole to the side. You don't want that. So make sure you do this step first, drill the holes. Now, the first thing you want to do when drill the holes is make sure you have the right size drill bit. You want to make sure the drill bit that you're using is smaller than the carapace of the tarantula you're putting in there or spider. That will stop it from getting out. So sometimes you have to use a really small hole for some of these ones here, and when you do a smaller hole, you have to make more holes to make sure you have enough ventilation. Okay, now there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can eyeball it like I do. Just put holes. I do 3 rows, and then I put a row down each side of the back. You can also, like some people like to do, you can print out a set pattern, and then you tape it on, and then you can drill the holes exact. If you want it to look perfect every time, exactly the same, that's a good way to do it. You can also take scotch tape, masking tape, put it on, and put the dots on how you want it, and then drill through, and then take the tape off. Either way you want to do it is perfectly fine. I just prefer the much quicker way of just eyeballing it. Like I said, 3 lines each side, and then 1 down each side of the back. If you're making one of the bigger enclosures though, I will say that make sure when on the bottom, put a couple more rows. Something this small, you really don't need it, but plenty of ventilation. But when you get the bigger ones, you're going to want 3 or 4 rows on top, another like 3 rows down lower, just to make sure you're getting the proper ventilation through there so you don't get the mold issues. Okay, I'm going to now drill this off camera real quick, and I will be right back. Okay, I have now drilled all the holes, and I have a huge mess. You see, I put 2 lines down the back, and I have my 4 lines up top. That's about all that you really need for most boreals, and it gives enough ventilation. If you really want to, you can go more down the side, put some down lower, that's up to you. I have had no trouble with that so far. Now the next step you want to do is you want to cut the lid. So now you need to get your marker and your ruler out. Now I usually go up 2 inches on these. So I will go to the bottom lip and I will mark 2 inches. Right there. I will do the same on the other side. Mark 2 inches. Now you can take your ruler, go straight across from mark to mark. Right there. A little bit higher. So now you have a straight line, 2 inches off the bottom. Now I go through and I always double check. It's 2 inches, yep. 2 inches. Nope, it's a little too high. So I use paper towel or something, toilet paper, let's say. And you can wipe that right off and try it again. Because you want to make sure you get that as close as you can to 2 inches or 2.5, 3. I wouldn't go under 2 inches. You want to make sure you have enough room to put the hinge. So let's try that again. Line it up. No. There we go. And as I said, double check it at 2 inches. Right on. And this side is right on. Set these aside. And now what you want to do is you want to get your cutting tool. Whatever that may be. I'm going to be using a Dremel. You can use a saw. However you're cutting it, just make sure you use safety glasses. If you're a minor, make sure you have a parent with you. All the warnings. Got to put them out there. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this and I will be right back. Okay, now I have cut it. I have 2 pieces. The problem is when you're using a Dremel is that it does melt it and you end up with this horrible edge. Most of it will break off. You have to work on that. See, it comes off pretty okay. You may want to use one of the grinding tools to clean it up a bit. If you do that, if you clean it up a bit, make sure that you don't take too much off or you'll end up with a gap that your tarantula can just walk right through. You need to make sure that this is still pretty close to being a tight fit. So just keep that in mind when you're cleaning the edge. But definitely go over it, clean the edge, get all these burrs off it, or it will make it much harder to open the door. So get these all off of here. And then I'll show you the next step. Okay, now that you have these all cleaned off, all the burrs off, you're going to want to cut out a groove, a notch on the top of this. To do it to the right size, now this is to allow the door to open. Right now, you see the 2 sides are fitting together. You can't open it. You need to be able to open it. So what you want to do is you want to put a mark about right there, the same height as this door. So whatever that is, you can measure it. If you want to take the ruler and measure it, that works. And then mark this. What I tend to do my marker, I prefer to just take this, line it up so that it's even with both edges, and then mark it. There's that one and that one. Now I know where I need to cut off. Now to cut the edge, all you want to do, I know it's hard to kind of see with the glass, is you want to cut in and then over. You're just trying to cut a notch out. So, and then you gotta be real careful with the Dremel not to scuff any of the part that you actually want to be able to see through. You want to keep it clear. So be really careful when you cut this with a Dremel tool. And I'm gonna do that now. I'll be right back and I'll show you what the cut looks like. Okay, I've now cut one side out. As you can see, it's just this little piece right there, just a square piece. And that's what it looks like when you cut it out. Just this out right here. And this will allow the door to actually open into that groove. So now you want to cut it out on both sides though. So let me get that done now. Okay, I now have both sides cut out. So when the door meets, it's going to have absolutely no problem opening now. Once again, make sure you get all these burrs out of here, clean it up. They should just snap off if you use the Dremel. Use a saw, you probably don't even have the issue with the burrs. We made quite a mess doing this. Now just to see how everything lines up, take the bottom piece, set it in, shove it all into the bottom, and then take the top piece and see if it all fits in there smoothly. And as you can see, when you do this, you're going to have some gaps. It just always happens. The best way to try to get rid of some of them is smooth it out a bit, and then you can actually push this up maybe just a little bit. But I haven't had any issue with anything getting out through those gaps yet. Most of it will be covered by the hinge too. Okay, the next step you want to do is to glue the base in. So get this door out of the way, take this off. Now what you're going to need is a little bit of sandpaper. A lot of people skip this step, and you really shouldn't. And you're gluing anything that's clear, smooth, like this plastic this. There's not a lot for the glue to grip on. And some of it will melt a bit and all that with the super glue, but it's always better to scuff it. Give it a something to grip on. When the super glue goes on, you're not going to be able to see through this part anyways, and the substrate's going to be down here. It doesn't really matter if you scuff this up a bit. Oh, I missed part of the... There we go. Just put just some scratch marks in it, and do the same with the bottom. Just go just a little bit of a lip, not much. Give it a little bit of a scuff. Same with the side. Make sure you don't go farther than what your base is going to be, because you don't want to scuff what we're actually going to be seeing. And now that you have that on there, oh, got dog hair. Get that out of the way. Take your super glue and just put a bead all the way around. I've never used this kind before, gel stuff. There we go. Make sure you get a bead all the way around so that it's waterproof, because when you do mist and stuff, you don't want it leaking out the bottom. That's a problem that I have for some of my original ones. Is that on the bottom, when I mist them enough and get them really wet, once a week, it'll start leaking sometimes out of the bottom. So make sure you get a good enough seal there. Then put it in and push it down. Make sure you push it to the base so that it gets a good seal down there too. And it should only take about 10 seconds or so, and the super glue should be dry. And we can leave it sit there while we're doing the rest of our project. Now you want to do the hinge. To do the hinge, put the top part of the door back on. Once again, you're going to want to scuff. You're using metal to plastic. You definitely want to make sure this is scuffed up, get as good a hold as you can. So far, in the over a year I've used mine, I've only had one door come off, just one. And that was because the lid dropped and it kind of hit pretty hard and it just pulled itself off. These are not like the toughest things, obviously. These are DIYs. So make sure you scuff that up. Set it on your door. Put the hinge right over the crack as center as you can. Now I hold one side, lift it up so I can see. And then that gives me an idea of where to scuff, because you still want to scuff the plastic. But you want to make sure you do not scuff away from where you're going to be gluing. Okay, I have that side there. And then you lift up this side, do the same thing. Gives you an idea of where to scuff. Be very careful, as I say. You don't want to go too far away. Wipe it off. Now the same thing. Take your super glue and just run it around. I run it around the holes. Oh, I gotta grab the blue parts on this. Make sure I put a bead around the holes. If you're using the normal, just really wet stuff, not this gel, just make sure you smear it around. Make sure it goes all the way around the holes, in between the holes, so that you have a good grip. Make sure you stay away from the actual hinge. You do not want it to be touching the hinge parts. Even when you press it, it's going to spread out. So keep it more up near the middle so it doesn't come out too far and it doesn't go into the hinge. It's kind of a nice balance. Now when you set it down, hold the center hinge like this. Get a good grip on it. Line it up before you set it down so that's over the scuff marks. And that's right over where you cut. And then you want to press it down and hold it for a few minutes, seconds, whatever. So that you know it has a good firm hold on that. And then you'll usually let this sit for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour. Just make sure that this gets a good seal on here before you start opening it up. And then we only have one more step and we're done. Besides decorating it, putting the substrate in. And we'll be right back for that step. Okay, now I've given this some time to dry. This Loctite super glue gel stuff took a little bit longer than I was used to. But it is holding, as you can see. No problem. You have an opening door. But now your door needs a lock. Now to do a lock, you're going to need a nail. Something like this. Anything that has a head on it. You're going to need a flat, wide head. And you're going to need a drill bit that is the same width as the nail, but not as wide as the head. So something like, it's kind of hard to show you that. But there you can see, like that. So that when you drill a hole, the head of the nail will still stop. Okay. Now, first let's get the pin ready. You're going to want to cut the sharp point off just so you don't stab yourself or anything stupid like that. Once again, I'm going to be using my Dremel tool to do that with the cutting tool on it. You can use a saw or whatever you have laying around. And do that right now. I have the chuck on there, as you can see. So I don't have to use all the tools. I can just use my hand, lock it down. So if you do get a Dremel tool, take a look at getting the chuck. It's actually really helpful. High speed. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses, because these things can go flying. The cutting tool can even break and go flying. So always make sure you're wearing something that will protect your eyes. And then make sure that the end is smooth when you cut it. So if you get a burr or something, it might stop it from going in. Okay, now we have our pin. Set that aside. Okay, now I was talking about the chuck, and it's actually a really helpful tool to have on there just for making everything really simple. You just take out the cutting tool, put in the drill bit, tighten it down. Make sure you want enough of the drill bit out. And it's ready to go. Makes things so much easier, not having to use the wrench tool that comes with it and just all the problems with that. Now what you want to do is stand this up. Make sure the door is closed. You want to drill through both the door and the top of the enclosure at the same time. Turn the drill on. Now drill right between the two. Now that's done. Open the door, because a lot of times, yep, it melted it a bit. That's where you gotta kind of be careful, because you don't want to, this is still drying a bit. It's gonna dry for a while, so be careful. Opening it, of course, is gonna give me a bunch of trouble in the video. See? Get it open. You can clean off the little bit of burrs up there. And then close it. Take the pin that you have, put it in the top, and it locks the door. Now, whatever you have in here, can't get out. And that's it. That is your enclosure completely done. You have all the air holes in it. You have a door that opens. It has a lock on it. Take the lock out. Open the door. And you're all set now to put the substrate in there. Put your hide in there how you want it, decorate it, and put your transil in and you're ready to go. And I will show you what this looks like when it's completely done. This is my D-Demand Instance enclosure. And that's what they look like when they're all done. You can have room down here to put a label if you want. The substrate just goes there. Put in a water dish, however you want to do the hides, and they love it. I've had no problems with it. They look really, really nice on the shelf, especially when you have a whole lot of them next to each other. And I guess that would be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it very helpful. If you did, please like this video and hopefully subscribe. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you enjoyed about this video, if you found it helpful, or if I missed something. Please let me know that too. And as always, thank you for watching.